is the One Up Network. Welcome to One Up Yours for Friday, December the 15th. Very short, 10 days until Christmas.
Bah humbug.
You're only bah humbugging because you're on deadline. Bah humbugging.
Well,
Because
partially because I'm a deadline, but I also hate Christmas. So.
how can you hate Christmas?
I worked retail for 6 years.
So now Shane is back with us, as you can hear, and right off the bat, he's dissing frickin' Christmas.
Bah humbug.
That's beautiful. Luke,
Yeah, I think Christmas sucks too.
Jesus.
Happy holiday.
The good part
You
about
guys have like Boxing
no,
Day
I
or
mean,
something.
John has a child. So when you have a child, that's a reason to love
The good
it.
part about Christmas is it's like one of those holidays that lots of people kill themselves during, so we get some like population thinning.
All right, screw you all, haters. Holidays, Christmas, rock. Especially Christmas parties.
Yeah, those are good.
I thought I'd just toss that one out there so we could get it out of the way right off the
Yeah,
bat.
we had our holiday.
Okay,
party.
gentlemen, have at 2 minutes, right? 2 minutes good?
No, I'm just surprised that they didn't cut the bar off for everyone, because in the past the bars got cut off kind of early, right?
Well, we normally drink through the budget much faster than anticipated.
Well, darn it, sure as hell tried.
Okay, that was good. That was good. That's
But, I say good for Garnet. He was festive. He was in the spirit. He had a good time.
So
What's wrong
we
with
put some photos online. There's some photos on the One Up Show blog, and there's some photos on my blog, but they didn't really capture the extent of some of the drunkenness that evening.
Right.
all I'll say is I had a fantastic time. It was
You
an
did.
awesome holiday party.
No regrets.
Only that it didn't.
That makes it sound like he had an even more awesome time than he did.
Only that we didn't do it again the next night. Well, maybe the night. Yeah, because I couldn't go the next night. It meant too much.
Yeah, we had the Capcom thing, and it was like
Yeah.
I had a drink, and it was like,
Ooh.
I'm done.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that was pretty done. All right, so now we got that out of our system. Let's talk about what we're doing on the show today. We have, of course, the normal opening segment. We're going to do what you've been playing. Shane's probably had a lot since he's been on deadline. I know I've been helping on some of that stuff, too, so we have plenty to talk about that. John, did you get some stuff from our message boards? Do we have some threads? Or are
A little bit, yep.
Okay, so we're not flying blind there. We're in good shape. Second break, we're going to do, who knows how it's going to wind up. We're going to do this freeform thing on kind of a 2006 retrospective as you go into the holiday season. We got notes, we got quotes, we got game disappointments, and anyway, we're just going to see where it goes. So that's the second part, and then it's another one of those, what's with the news section lately, Luke? Jesus, you're blowing up. I mean,
I don't know.
I look down here at
Luke
the third.
is blowing up.
I look at the third break and it's like, wow, okay, that's
I think Skip's using a bigger font. Let's be fair. I think it just looks bigger than it is.
Well,
it's a camera trick.
That's what she said.
wow.
That's kind of It's fine.
more or less.
So Shane, I'll let you kick it off then. What have you been playing while you're on break or on deadline?
Deadline and break
before
aren't
the break.
the same.
No, they're
thing.
not.
I'm actually not reviewing much this month, which is nice. It's a brief
Lazy
break.
bastard.
I did 9 games last month, but this month it's Metal Gear Portable Ops, which is great. We all know that it's already out. Hopefully you're playing it. It's finally a reason to play your PSP. And the new Phoenix Wright, which is a little disappointing. It's not as good as the first one.
Really?
Well, it's not a real sequel. It's another GBA port. And the first time they added a new case that was made for DS, and that part had like different gameplay, so that was cool. This time they didn't add a new case, so it's shorter. It's actually harder. When they're making a real sequel, like a fourth Phoenix Wright, it's only for DS, and that'd be the one that like really pushes the series forward. But if you like it, it's more of the same. It's entertaining, but it doesn't do anything new.
Oh,
So
that's a shame.
Let's just
What's this one called?
This is Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, Justice for All.
Okay.
And if you like the first one, it's still worth playing. But just don't
It
expect
starts with like the memory thing, right? I think that's what I played.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
In that same vein, what was that game Michael was playing the other day?
Yeah, people are reviewing Hotel Dusk, which is this like film noir DS mystery game. And apparently it's really cool. I heard thinks it's really cool. So
Have you checked it out at all?
no, I'm curious.
Okay, so I was watching over his shoulder. There's like two things I thought were really cool about it. Just presentationally, it does have that film noir style.
Well,
And
it also you hold the DS sideways, which is cool.
Yeah, so
very
I like-
few games do that.
I like the sideways thing. It doesn't just have to be a Brain Age game to do that, right? You can use that orientation and still have a good, like sort of book-like application. And the movement is on the touch screen side. It has like a top-down map, and you slide the stylus around to move your character. And then when you come up to things to interact with, it's like a point-and-click adventure. And then it plays out in the right-hand side in this sort of animated comic book style. Very much like film noir style.
Yeah,
it's
it seems
really
very
slick
adult,
looking.
like what you don't expect from Nintendo, like an adult-oriented game, and it's like I think it has a mature rating even, which is crazy. So
Now, I haven't
What's it
actually.
called again?
Hotel Dusk Room 215.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
and
it's really strange.
And Nintendo's publishing it?
Yeah, it comes out in January.
Wow.
So, and I haven't actually played, but Michael said that the story was he was really digging on the story too. He's like,
Yeah.
the story's good, the dialogue's really.
He's definitely very
there.
excited. He was, praising it this morning. So, yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was a good tie-in to Phoenix Wright.
It is. And other than that, last week I was down in LA and Sony had an event. I played a bunch of MotorStorm, and it's now out in Japan, so I think people are playing it here too.
It's the best-selling game on PlayStation 3 in
But
Japan.
I really do like it. I think it's really fun. It's not as complex as some people might expect. It's not a sim at all, but it's very pretty. It's fun. It's arcadey. It reminds me a lot of like what Destruction Derby and Wipeout were for PS1 when they came out. Just like graphically impressive, fun, accessible games that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to playing more of that.
But the big complaint that comes out on MotorStorm is the floatiness of the controls. So
See, I don't feel that. I mean, the different vehicles control very differently, and I don't like all of them the same. But
Okay.
when I was racing on the ATVs or the motorbikes, and you can punch other people, it kind of has a road rash feel. It's really fun. I really enjoy it actually.
So which ones do you like then?
Of the vehicles,
Yes.
I like the smaller vehicles, like the bike, the ATV, the small trucks. The bigger things, it's kind of slow.
Is it region locked? Can you play on a US?
It's not region locked.
You can play it
but
on
the Japanese version has no online mode, so I would say like wait for the online mode because it's pretty multiplayer is fun.
That's going to make for a really screwy situation, isn't it?
It's weird. I don't know why they're doing it. Strange decision.
Because they need something to sell.
So I want to go back to Metal Gear because I've been playing that.
Uh-huh.
I think yet again, I've been playing a game and everything that I have to complain about has nothing to do with the game.
It's all the system.
It's all the system. It's like everything that's wrong with Portable Ops is the hardware.
Is there a control method you like?
Well, I
there
think
what?
Luke might disagree with
Is there a
you.
control method that you like? Because the different control methods on there, like
Yeah.
it's kind of tough to find one that you think has everything. Like
Right.
I tried A, I tried C. It's like
Yeah, you fool around with it, but you realize that you can't really play it the way they want you to. The whole first-person thing is like so obstructive.
Well, because you can't use the stick and the D-pad at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, like you really can't.
So I ended up just sort of walking around with the gun out, with him just sort of trotting around looking ridiculous with his
Yeah,
arms
and I
extended in front of him.
can't play the
and-
game that way because you look stupid.
But you actually
But it
you have
works.
to sort of break the whole sort of stealth conceit and play it like a shooter for a while to get through. Like the first time that, and the other thing is, it appears a lot more complicated than it really is.
Mm-hmm.
So the first time that you have to go and capture a guy and take him back to the Scooby-Doo mystery van to interrogate them, you think you have to find someone who's complacent, but you don't. You just you can knock down anyone and drag
Right.
them back, and the game will progress whoever you capture and take back. But I mean, I love the whole sort of go find people and work together, and the way the story unfolds with the comic book stuff. I think it's really well done.
Well, and the capturing guys is pretty addictive. It is like the Pokemon, like gotta catch them all thing. I'll see somebody who's different, and I automatically want them, and like I'll do whatever it takes to steal them.
So you said break the stealth thing, but the way Luke was describing it to me, the stealth thing was broken from the outset.
Well, I said to John earlier this week, I said as soon as you get seen in that game, just click restart mission. It's
Yeah.
stupid. It's like, and so it becomes each mission area that you sort of drive into.
It's a mission, not a missionary.
Yeah,
He drives into missionaries.
each mission
Positions.
that you drive into though, it becomes like trial and error. Like, oh, there's a guy there. I'll remember that next time and that's how you find where everyone is, and you reload a bunch of times because if you get seen, you're totally impotent because you're like, D-pad, analog,
Oh, but you can't
crouch,
You
stand up.
can hide. I mean, I don't always restart. You can hide and wait for the mission, the alert to go
Yeah,
off.
if you can
You
control your
just
guy,
kill the
you know,
guy that saw you and drag him out of the way.
But
with
I-
those superb controls.
But
for
I do
shooting.
commend them. And, like the controls are a little shoehorned onto the PSP, but the game design as it is really well thought out for a portable. The missions are short. It's different. There's a lot of the online mode is cool. Like they did go pretty far in making a game for PSP, not just porting something from PS2.
Now I really want them to port it back to PS2. Like
you can play it properly.
Metal Gear Solid PlayStation 2 ops. Like, let's see that early next year. Yeah, I want to play it properly. That's exactly
On
it.
a console that is better for it. Yeah.
Yeah, where there's two nubs.
Maybe you can just talk to your buddy Phil Harrison, and he can make you like they used to have the old GBA adapter for the Nintendo. You can have like the PSP adapter for the
The
PS3.
UMD player for the
Yeah,
PS2.
UMD player for the PS3.
At some point, there'll be a Sony device where you download this game and then play it on something that you didn't download it to, just to make it really confusing.
They have something like that already.
Through something else.
Exactly, yeah.
The conduit system that the PS3 uses.
Genius.
I also played some DS stuff. I was at Square Enix, and their DS stuff's pretty awesome. The Chocobo game that just came out in Japan, it's really fun actually. It's a bunch of mini games and has this.
Luke,
Yeah, I was
Luke
stunned.
Tune Out. Wow.
No, it has this really cool art style. It's like a pop-up children's book, and the mini games are fun, and it uses the touchscreen really well. And I also played that It's a Wonderful World game, a new demo of that. It's really cool. Yeah, Cool stuff coming out on DS from Square.
Jeremy was pretty hot on the It's a Wonderful World when he saw it at TGS after he got a glimpse, actually got a clue of what it was about. He's like, it's really hard to figure out.
Once
at
you realize
first.
that you're actually simultaneously controlling two different characters on two different screens, both of them fighting at the same time, and like your brain melts as you have to do these things. Like you're fighting with the stylus on the bottom screen, and you're fighting with the D-pad and buttons on the top screen.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So the game presupposes that you have 3 hands.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
And 2 brains.
Like
and
the
ADD.
game made me feel old. I'm like, man, the kids these days, they're multitasking, but it's fun, and once you get the hang of it, it's cool.
And it's called It's a Wonderful World.
Yeah, inspired by the Louis Armstrong song.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which is all about which is all about shooting things in 2 different places at once.
Exactly.
Luke, the jazz singer.
Yeah, who knew? So that's me. I'm back.
What have you been playing, Luke?
I've been playing this new Xbox Live Arcade game called Geometry Wars Jeep.
Oh, it's like Metal Assault, or whatever.
Assault Heroes, actually.
But here it's a good one. People are like, it's a good one.
It is. It's a good one. It's a lot of fun. I played it last night for a while and played it this morning.
You playing
again,
some
actually, when I woke up.
Robo Blitz 2 or whatever? No, that's
I played some Robo Blitz. I had high hopes for Robo Blitz because I was wowed by its use of the Unreal Engine and the whole sort of it's an adventure, it's puzzles, it's really not very good.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't put that much time into it.
But you and I sat here and we played it for 25-30 minutes and
It's a live arcade game. That's kind of all you get.
but it wants to be this thing that presumably is going to take 3 or 4 hours to get through, and
At least,
it has
yeah.
control issues. It has just it's telling you to do things, and you're not really sure that you actually did that. It's got these really great ideas. Like there's these like huge machines that you have to go and interact with, and you have to it's broken, so you have to get this huge pole and shove it into the machine and get it started again, and it doesn't appear to do anything.
They don't always just start when you shove it in.
Well, no, sometimes you have to. You have to
Back to the drive-through missionary.
you have to work it a little bit.
Prime it up a little.
Yeah. But
The problem for me with RoboBlitz was the disconnect between the dude rolling around on the ball and what I was doing with the controls.
yeah.
But back to your game, Luke.
Yeah,
The one that isn't terrible.
Assault Heroes is pretty much Geometry Wars from the ground up, but where Geometry Wars is very abstract, and you're like, oh, the Applejacks are coming, or like, oh, the pink squares are coming at me. It's like, oh god, the angry Aborigine people are coming.
But,
or like,
so you wouldn't compare it to like a Mercs or a Commando, like an old top-down shooter game?
well, I mean, aesthetically, absolutely, but I mean,
But
the controls are identical. There's like a nuke button, which is the equivalent of like the bomb in Geometry Wars. I mean, it is taking
But
conventions.
is there like level design and power-ups and bosses?
Yeah, there's absolutely level designs, power-ups.
So then it's not like Geometry Wars.
Well,
it's more
that
like,
part's different, but the core gameplay, like the gameplay that Geometry Wars,
it's all
has,
two-stick shooting,
It's all
yeah?
it's
Okay.
a 2-stick shooter, and like the bomb stuff's there. There's a bunch of different weapons.
Can
that
you do
get.
co-op?
Yeah, there's co-op. Like you can jump, like online co-op
Sweet.
even.
I'll try that out.
Robotron, still fresh.
Who knew?
Who knew? Atari Warriors. It's like an Atari Warriors skin for Robotron. That's all you played, huh?
Yeah, I think this week. Yeah,
No World of Warcraft Burning Crusades?
I logged in to say hi to people.
Oh, that's nice.
And you got that tremendous patch.
You logged in to
Yeah.
say hi, so it's now WoW as chat room.
Yeah, World of Warcraft for me is like aim with pictures right now. That's the only thing that really is to do. There's some guild drama I wanted to go sort out, make sure everyone's vaginas was okay. These nerds.
Oh,
They get sandy, and you got to come in with the water and flush it out.
the true caring nature of Luke Smith only comes through in World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I mean those are like my kids.
He turns on his emo and
Sheffield it up.
Oh, I saw another game I played yesterday, Def Jam Icon. I played that, and
Yeah, Kudo was here.
happily, it is now running at double-digit frame rate.
Wow, that could be anywhere between 10
and 15.
But it's looking pretty cool.
When you wear sunglasses, can you not tell if the frame rate's bad?
Hey,
Because I-
lay off. He's a good guy.
Kudo jab.
He's a good guy.
I was just,
The game looks
He is a
cool.
good
the
guy.
room was dark. I was
Garnet, you-
confused. I didn't know if he could see it or not.
All right, Garnet, you and I will appreciate all the music and the stars they have in this
The
game.
music's hot. I'm
Oh god, we're gonna have a hip hop conversation
We
now.
might have a hip hop conversation.
whatever. My only concern is they're carrying it like too much to where it starts to look like one of them stupid Nike or Reebok ads, because like the buildings and everything bouncing around. I don't know.
It's a cool effect though.
Really?
It's different.
One of them stupid ads.
That's it.
Garnet.
We actually have a Bill Garnet. We'll check it out later. All right.
I'm sorry, I didn't go into redneck drawl, but you did very well.
So what music's in it?
A lot of good stuff.
I haven't seen a track list.
We got tons of stuff like the game, Paul Wall, Ludacris.
The only thing I've seen demoed was
tons
the
of art.
Ludacris song, because the Ludacris one is when he bounces all the time with the gas.
Yeah, but no,
gas station level. I've seen enough.
So were they
times.
shown on 360 or PS3?
Both.
Now, do both versions have the custom soundtrack, everything bouncing in time to whatever music you shove into it?
That is to be determined.
Because the 360
like it'll be on
version, you
360.
can plug your iPod in, or you can use a custom soundtrack,
Yes,
right?
you definitely can do that with the Xbox 360 version.
But the PS3 version
To be determined.
Not so much.
doesn't support anything. Two things happening at the same time. Those 8 processors.
Not so magical.
There's something going on with like the ATTRACK files. Thing has to be changed. We'll see.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So because there are a lot of developers that listen, although I don't think the buildings and all that crap bouncing is really cool, I do like the whole idea of having the environmental interactions in time with like the music. That part's really cool.
Well, and you can have one of your songs queued up on the Xbox 360 version and like scratch it in using the analog stick. You like spin it around like a record.
Really?
Like, scratch in your song and it changes the
God.
song. Anyway, but yeah, we have ability to try it. And, like,
These guys are like whatever, and I'm like, that's kind of cool.
No, I mean, I like the idea, but it does smack a little bit of like old people trying to be cool. You can scratch the music in, man.
I smack a lot of old people trying to be cool, so I'll cop to that shit right now.
Kudo was saying they got the idea from some of the rappers. That was their idea. So, Garnet, you and I will play it later, and we'll talk about it.
Cool. Sounds good. Sounds good. Main thing I've been playing this week is Lost Planet. Man, I had to play so much Lost Planet. It's kind of funny because my opinion it was like a roller coaster. It was up, it was down, and then I was like, okay, I got to make it past this part that I'm really down on, and I'm not coming back up on
Were
it.
you down on the single player or the multiplayer?
On the single player. The multiplayer, I have two opinions about multiplayer. If you're looking at multiplayer for like a shooter game, like a deathmatch, there are dozens of games that have better deathmatch. The speed is weird, and the turning thing is hokey.
And the gun sticky target, skill not required.
Do all,
So
the,
forget
do all the
that.
missions have those pumps, or can you not play with those pump things?
You cannot play with the pumps.
Okay, that's good.
I think. Actually, I don't know the answer to that question because the pumps do figure into elimination because they're a way to recharge.
I know a lot of people have already decided that they love Lost Planet, regardless, because it's the next thing.
Very similar,
gaff.
very similar to the people who decided they like Dead Rising so much. And
Yeah,
they were wrong
but,
too, actually.
I mean, is
The
no
single
one
player-
bothered by the fact that it's every idea Capcom's had for the last 10 years shoved into 3D and made to look prettier?
Well,
I mean,
that's really what bothers you is like the whole way the game is designed in its level structure is like this weird anachronistic boss fight at the end of this next gen adventure game. It's like adventure game. Oh, this is all very cool. Next gen. Oh,
but then it's shoot the big ugly creature in its
Glowing
soft,
spot.
delicate spot, and then move on to the next.
Oh,
thing.
and you get to fight space pirate or snow pirates. Sorry,
I mean, I've
mechs.
only-
Oh wait, they're not mechs.
I've heard that the mech quotient increases and ramps up in like a kind of surprising way towards the game's end. That's what I
Towards the
heard.
game end, there's a whole lot of the mech combat.
Oh, it's a mech shooter at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually like that part. The mech part towards the end especially gets really good because the different suits or mechs or whatever the hell you want to call them have different capabilities. Like some of them have faster sliding ability, some of them have more jet power, so you can like rocket jump around. You can easily exchange weapons because when you come near a weapon that's on the ground, you just punch the B button and it picks it right up. So you can swap weapons in and out, and you have to know which one to use in which situation.
Yeah.
That part all works really well. Boss fights, not so much.
But I think the expectations were so high for this game. Everyone expects every game that comes out to be like a 10, and like not every game is going to be a 10. And just because people might seem a little disappointed by this doesn't mean it's not a good game.
No, it is a good game. It is a good game, and I will stand on this part, which is that if you like team-based multiplayer, the team-based multiplayer will make the game.
I'm
worth
actually
it.
more. I mean, I'm definitely going to play it. What I just find surprising is the number of people that have just decided that this is the next thing that they're going to rave about.
Yeah.
And
It's because
I'm
the
not sure. I'm
presentation-
not sure that it warrants. I mean, it's a good-looking game. It's got. I mean, the explosions look awesome, and the smoke and the snow, and
best use of HDR in any game in a long, long time
Yeah.
because the way that it gets that whole whiteout effect from your eyes adjusting to glare off the snow is really awesome. I mean, it nails that. The sound, especially in 5.1, is really, really good. When you're out on the frozen tundra and the wind's blowing around you and you're hearing it in all the speakers and the snow's blowing up in your face and obscuring your vision, dude, you're there.
Yeah.
That's why people get hype on it, is because that presentation really works.
What about the dreamy Korean actor who everyone loves?
You know what? So that doesn't have like any impact because we don't know who the hell he is. But
He's a big deal in Japan.
Yeah, but you know what worked is that because they had someone and something to make a character around, they actually made a character, and it's not just a cutout.
He seems
it's
more real.
Yeah, right. And you have to have that for a
cool.
third-person adventure.
And it's really cold in the Lost Planet, and they still managed to show some cleavage, which is great. Awesome. Good job, guys.
Yeah, well, and that wouldn't be no surprise.
you don't
then
like breasts, Luke.
Not when they're presented in a shitty way like that. It's cold. No self-respecting woman's walking around with her boobs flaunting out.
In other words, you're
sub-zero-
disappointed that
in
there's no
sub-zero
prominent
temperatures
nipples?
on a planet that may or may not be Earth.
I do think.
Why do you have to do that?
No, here's the funny thing: they showed us Lost Planet like a full year and a half ago. The first time they ever showed it to us was a long time ago, and the first level. It's like a snowy thing, and there's the Arc de Triomphe, and we're like, "Is this set on Earth? Is this France?" And they're like, "No." We're like, "But look, it's like the end of Planet of the Apes. It's Earth." They're like, "No." I'm like, "Yeah, way to go."
Wait, iconic
The
architecture.
Lost Planet has been found.
Yeah.
You're on it.
Anyway,
Did you just ruin it for
There
everyone?
you have
they
it.
ruined it for me 2 years ago.
See?
I would suspect that many people who have seen the very modern architecture covered in snow had some
Yeah.
clue that
also,
might be where they were going.
Bowser is going to fight Mario. In other news.
All right, so I mean that's what we've all been playing. Oh, you know what I will have upcoming, because people always say we don't do enough PC stuff, right? Sitting on my desk right now is the first full campaign of Supreme Commander.
Oh, excellent.
So I have.
Actually, speaking of
and
PC stuff,
I am so amped to be playing that over the Christmas season.
installing on my PC right now is the PC version of Rainbow Six Vegas, which I should be reviewing for Games for Windows. I don't think it's any different. though.
Expectations?
I think it's exactly the same as the 360 one, as far as I can tell.
Well, these guys are gonna like cringe, but I cannot wait to geek out on the Supreme Commander, and we'll definitely.
I
saw a very impressive demo of it,
Supreme
actually.
Commander.
The sense of scale amazed me. There you go.
Big
Wow, PC props from none other than Shane.
I'm not going to play it, but I respect it.
That's cool. You know what? That's fair.
No joypad, no game.
My
Bad
computer has like a 46 or something. I can't
Does that
remember.
mean he'll be playing CNC3 on 360?
Me?
No, him.
Him? No, he's not. It's a 360 game.
No, I play 360 games all the time. I'm not a big RTS fan, though, but I might try it.
90 achievement points.
January, I think we'll be checking that out.
So I was hoping today I was going to be able to talk about the new Star Trek game. I'm going to come out as a Trek nerd. Star Trek Legacy apparently comes out this week, but it was one of those weird 360. We don't know what day of the week it comes. Remember Viva Pinata? No one knew when it was actually out.
Maybe that's why they didn't buy it.
Yeah, that didn't work so well for Microsoft.
No.
The selling part, Viva Pinata, not so much.
Yeah, the enthusiasm we got down, but the selling. So yeah, Star Trek Legacy is apparently out this weekend, and that's based on the PC game, and it sounds a lot like Homeworld in the way it plays.
Which would be a big bonus. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't go wrong there. Star Trek games very up and down.
Yeah.
They're up sometimes.
Oh, so you don't play PC games, so you don't remember it. But John and I were remembering the awesome next-gen adventure game. What's the name of that one? Was it?
It was by Interplay, and it was a point-and-click adventure.
The one where it's like Sierra, like a Scum game. I always wanted to play that game.
Yeah.
It was
Shane
really-
is actually...
It was really.
I'm an
good.
adventure game fan. I would have sex with
Shane-
Roberta Williams right now.
Also, wow. Also a secret
Would
Trek
you know
fan
what
over
to
there.
do?
Then you should actually dig that up, because your old computer would play it, and it was a really good
That's
adventure
my
game.
game of the year right there.
Luke is so tuning out again.
He's like, Adventures, Star Trek, not interested.
Yeah.
Gone.
Who was that just did that? We should dock him.
Shane trying to throw a Coke bottle into the trash can, completely missing.
Do you want to move very quickly and just do a couple of things from the boards?
Let's
and then-
do it.
So, the thing we talked about last week that Beige started with the gaming literacy thing, that kicked off a second thread that people should check out with some game suggestions. So keep going looking for that and adding games, because I think we are going to do something with the outcome of that board as a story.
Yeah.
There was a lot of response to our discussion of the Spike Awards last week, which people didn't like the Spike Awards so much.
We were there.
Big shock. Thank you, Sarah Silverman, for being a dick.
Yeah, she's usually very clever, and I was there at the live taping, and I kept expecting her to like twist her comedy and not just do like really obvious stereotypical insults, and that's all she did.
She came out and she really didn't like the people that were in that room. It was really quite unpleasant.
Yeah, it was unpleasant.
But it was
Get a rope.
It was interesting that after she'd done her little skit, they did the can everyone just cheer and shout so we can take video of people cheering and shouting to fill in all the blank spots.
And then they made us do it again.
Yeah.
Oh no, you guys just totally lifted the veil.
Yeah, we lifted the veil, but
We're not talking about the cardboard people.
there were
Oh my God.
there were cardboard people in the crowd as well.
It's like a Verizon commercial at the Spike VGAs. Can you hear me now?
But it was a slickly produced show, and they had a lot of celebrities, and
Yeah,
the after
but there
party was great.
There were some deathly silent moments, definitely. But there was a thread that Cayman 24 started saying on what a show should be, and was essentially saying that it needs something more like the Oscars, saying that he wanted almost like an academy that was voting on things, which the games industry does kind of have, right? On the awards at DICE are like that.
Right.
but they never get any press. So I mean, it's the age-old problem of the stuff that gets on TV is all trying to be like the MTV Awards.
Right.
And the stuff that actually means something, no one really pays any attention to. But there was a long.
So maybe that's
that.
up to us. Maybe that's up to us next year when the DICE Awards hit to give them their due.
Yeah, to cover them.
I thought you said when you were saying
Well,
maybe it's up to us. I was like, well,
that's
I
on
guess we could be
it's
the
on
panel.
February 8th, so get platinum. There you go.
Oh God.
There's an interesting thread right now that I would invite people to contribute to that's called Stories You'd Like to See Game Journalists Truly Investigate. There's some interesting stuff in there. That was started by Mudron. A lot of requests for more sort of like, busting people's balls type interviews, citing the Peter Moore thing from last year. There's definitely going to be some of that in the beginning of next year. But throw it on. We will definitely be looking at this one for some story ideas because it's going to be very quiet at the beginning of next year, I think, in terms
Always
of
is.
games. So any cool ideas for cool stories and interviews and stuff, jump on there. So this is the time of year where the boards can really make a difference to the coverage you see on 1UP and in EGM and Games for Windows.
We're all going to be looking forward to Stranglehold, right?
I think it might get pushed back a little bit.
Again?
Again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll be back in just a minute. When we do come back, we're going to be talking
We'll be
about...
CAC.
No, I said back. All right, let me try that again for you more slowly. For the Luke Squad, we'll be back in just a minute. And we'll be doing our 2006 retro, so hang in there and we'll be right back.
You're listening to One Up Yours, part of the One Up Radio Network.
Hi, this is Jeff Green, the editor-in-chief at Games for Windows magazine. Happy holidays! Did you know that every time you listen to our podcast, an angel gets his wings? And did you also know that every time you don't listen, a puppy dies? Both things are true. So please listen to our podcast at gfwradio.oneup.com or podcast.oneup.com. Or if you must, go to the iTunes Music Store. Thanks!
All right, 2006 almost in the books. We thought we'd take a look at it. And hey, first question then. Is this going to be remembered as the year that the E3 died?
No, I don't think that E3's death is going to actually play that big of a role in like video gaming going forward.
At all.
I agree.
No, there's not. It's not. I don't think. I mean, I think that at the time it seemed like it was a big deal, but all these other events are going to rise up that fill the void. Like immediately, they're already planning like more big dumb events for us to go to and work our asses off. So it's not going to be the year that E3 died. I think that you'll remember this year is the year that Sony started to bleed out slowly.
Shane, smirk.
Transition time.
Transition time. Straight into that.
Transition to being bought by another company.
Maybe Microsoft buying
I'm just saying.
the Sony Games Entertainment.
You make $13 billion. You make $13 billion a quarter. You got some cash floating around.
Well, Sony's a huge corporation. Even though they had other problems with the battery recalls and the PS3 production problems and the PSP's continual decline into obscurity.
How can it be on decline? PSP, by the way, remember, is the fastest selling Sony console.
Well, that's nice and all, but
That was part of the
same time,
E3 keynote.
Sony is this diversified company, and Sony Motion Pictures had a record year with 12 #1 movies, and the best year in a long time for them. So it's a huge corporation, and they can, same way as Microsoft. Like if one division say loses $1 billion a year for 6 years, Microsoft Game Studio, the other parts make up for it, and we haven't seen the
So
last.
we'll be seeing those 12 titles on Blu-ray and UMD.
Well, also Disney just yesterday, has put their support behind Blu-ray, and they say they're not supporting HD DVD, so that's kind of a big deal.
That keeps going backwards and forwards. There's always someone saying, "Oh no, now we're on the other one."
Well, Disney saw. I mean, they saw how well the PS3 started off doing. They had to jump in.
The zeitgeist, they just caught it.
They're like all over that. All right, so
I'm curious as to why you brought up E3 as the first thing
I'm
in a
tired-
year where 2 new consoles
I'm
launched.
tired of being asked about E3. Like I was on G4 this week, and they asked me the same thing. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like the way you're getting your information might slightly change consumer,
Yeah.
but
Was
who
G4
cares?
going to take that segment and port it back in time 6 months to
it's
where it
like-
was a relevant discussion
Like
point?
being down in LA, seeing the convention center, realizing, oh yeah, we're not going to be staying there, we're not going to be doing that, but at the same time, we'll just be across town in Santa Monica seeing the same stuff, but without as many fanboys to wade through. Like it's not going to affect the average person at all.
that won't for us, but I think the point in the bigger sense of things, and sometimes as game journalists we have blinders on, is that was like the window to the outside world, though. Every year, that was the time that CNN and NBC, and that was the time when Good Morning America was trying to get us on to talk about games for 10 seconds.
But see, now, though, and this ties in with like the way that you've seen over the course of the year, the mainstream coverage of games sort of shift a little bit leading up into the end of the year and the console launches. We're like, we have seen that throughout the console launches, like Good Morning America coming and talking to us. And
I think it's more than a little bit. I mean, like right now, I mean, like just this week, we've talked to the New York Times and the Washington Post and to Reuters and NPR about the fucking strap on the Wii breaking.
Right.
I mean, like, they care about that.
Everywhere. If you watch television, I was watching Saturday Night Live, which is terrible, and like they kept mentioning PS3 and Wii and all these sketches, and like if you watch the like talk shows that keep coming up, and like it's everywhere. Mainstream media is covering these things all the time.
So then turn it around. Is E3 going away a good thing?
For us,
did it force the hand?
Well,
did it force the hand and make mainstream journalism cover games all the time through the year instead of just one spot?
It could have. I mean, you've seen N Guy over at Newsweek doing a bunch more stuff, of late. And you didn't see that earlier in the year. Like, he's got a big Newsweek blog that he's updating regularly. He has a series of features that he does, and you're seeing the New York Times on the Wii Strap thing at like soliciting comment at 9 a.m. like, yeah, we want this immediately. And this mainstreamification I don't know that it's going to continue. I don't think that we'll know that it's going to continue or it's not going to until next year, when you get to a time frame where E3 would have occurred, and how is it being covered then? Like, once the PS3 is available in the channels and once the Wii's available, like, is it still a story? Is it still worth talking about?
I think that's the significance of the launches, almost more than the actual hardware being out, because so few people have played them in the grand scheme of things. But mainstream media with PS2 had nothing left to talk about. It had been 6 years. There were 100 million of them out there. It was in 1 in 3 households in the US. There wasn't really anything for them to hook a story
there's
to.
no story.
And apart from if there was a controversy about something, or if something really out of left field hit, like Guitar Hero got some attention last year, but there wasn't really anything exciting. So suddenly there was all this attention on like these new things happening, and it gave them an opportunity to rally. And hopefully they'll maintain it. I mean, because it's not just supply stories or people lining up stories. I mean, they really are jumping on like little things now, which I think is awesome.
They're jumping on stuff too, like people shot. I mean, they're like people shot trying to get a PS3. I mean, they're still like, while we're shining a good light on the mainstream coverage, there's still the residual effect of like there's still violence around these games. There's still like violence being used as a jumping off point, still in mainstream media as a discussion point, which is
I mean, that's the sensationalism
from the very beginning of the year.
That's that whole sensationalism avenue that popular news goes down as an entertainment thing, trying to get ratings, right? Though.
Yeah.
All right. So Skip's saying we should talk about something else. How about we talk about handhelds for a minute? Interestingly enough, this is the year that PSP got a bunch of firmware updates and suddenly became useful for something: browsing the internet and RSS feeds. So,
It's not too useful for games, though.
well, I don't know. Is it?
I didn't find myself playing that many PSP games this year. Like,
I played maybe 3 this year.
And I would go to the store and be like, what do I want for PSP? Look at the wall, and there's nothing that I want there.
So it doesn't matter to you then that the Opera browser for DS has had like almost no impact.
It's not out here.
No, people are too busy using their DS for games. I mean, they don't need it to have it. They don't need it to necessarily have like a secondary function.
If I could browse with my DS, I would.
Really?
I think I would. On occasion.
You brought this up a number of times where you say like you don't want to take functionality away from something.
Right.
But I do think there's a lot to be said for just with it. People don't really want a device that does everything. I mean, that seems to be pretty clear with the success of things that are very focused. And I think why the DS is so popular is it just does one thing and it does it really well. And I mean, the PSP still doesn't do a lot of the things that Sony wanted it to be. It's not a very good video player still. It's never been a music player.
It's too big and bulky.
And I mean, is it really? I mean, would you really choose to browse the web through it? I mean, why would you want to do that?
I'd rather browse the web on my DS actually because of the touch panel.
Right.
But
I just don't get myself in situations where I'm thinking like, man, I could really use the internet right now. I'm glad I've got a handheld with me.
Well, I don't have a laptop, and when I was in LA, that was the day the NPDs were coming out, and I really wanted to see them, so I did use my PSP to browse the web.
Oh, okay.
See what the NPDs were, but it does. People do it. I did it.
I think more significant this year is that the DS established itself as, I think, more important than just being ghettoized as a handheld. I think one of the things that we'll look back on this year, beyond the obvious hardware stuff, is the DS is the platform. I think when you go into 07, the 3 most important platforms anyone's going to be talking about for the first half of next year is going to be PC, DS, and 360.
Really?
Yeah.
Why not PS3 and why not Wii?
There's not enough of them.
So just because of install base, that's where the
Well, what else is there if you're making a game than install base?
Well, the
Potential.
that's exactly
Like,
that's
no one can afford potential when it costs $20 million to do it. I mean, so I think that the Dragon Quest IX thing that we'll probably talk about later, right? I think is one of the most significant things that happened this year.
Well, but I mean that's indicative of DS is so popular right now, and it's a very safe bet, especially in Japan where it's huge. It's it's low cost to make a game for it, big rewards, and while the PS3 and Wii and 360 still have to build its installed user base, where you're going to make your money because you can't release a game in 2007 even and expect to sell 2 million copies on any of those consoles.
I mean, Brain Age was certainly indicative of that.
Halo and Gears of War just sold 2 million worldwide.
Beyond first party, I mean like a third party game specifically.
Right.
Yeah, Brain Age was definitely indicative of that. I mean, there was like at least a month-long period there that everyone had obsessive-compulsive with, I'm doing my Brain Age,
What's amazing about DS to me is that it has reached both little kids, because there's tons of kids games now. You'd be like, what's a Hannah Montana? And it's on DS. But at the same time, everyone we know, all adults, are playing DS. And in the last year, I witnessed on my bus ride home, adults playing DS all the time. And a year ago, I never saw it, ever. And people
I think the new form factor had a much bigger impact.
DS Lite was huge.
Yeah. I think it looked cooler. It was easier to put in your pocket. I mean, it is properly portable.
And the price is right. The price is perfect. It could be even cheaper. When it hits 99 or 79, it's going to be even bigger. But there's very low barrier to entry. Everyone's getting it. Everyone loves it. Yeah, DS is ubiquitous now.
Guess the same wasn't true for Gizmondo.
No, they had a pretty rough year.
Poor Che. He still has that Gizmondo.
That's our Gizmondo. It's EGM Gizmondo with the GPS. He stole it.
Yeah, it's on the dashboard of his car. He's all like, "Man, I got my Gizmondo."
You'll probably get an extra copy of Forza.
I guess that exec wasn't using his Gizmondo properly when he
crashed the
when he
Enzo.
ditched the Enzo.
God, that saga was awesome.
That was pretty awesome. That might be one of the better news stories of the year, huh?
I think when was that? Like January, February?
It was like February.
Yeah, because it was before I was out
February.
here. I remember writing about it at the Kotaku, and it was just like, God, is this going to continue to get worse and worse?
And it did.
And it totally did.
We all knew it was a joke. It was,
They didn't take him to jail because he was like, oh, there's some other guy who was driving who left. Remember this whole story? You're like,
dude, Gizmondo is not even worth talking about.
oh, it is just for
I think we're going to
Che's
talk about the
benefit.
Infinium Labs project next. The Phantom console that's evolved into a lap board.
Was that this year?
Yeah, they some sort of weird reshuffling happened. They got a new CEO, ditched the console, and now they're making a lap board.
Oh, the thing to.
And then they'll go back. Once that makes a bunch of money for them, then they're going to get back to work on the console.
Well, I mean, in order to keep the venture capitalists to continue giving them money, they got to pitch something, right? Then those guys want to eat lunch every day.
2008 is the year of the Phantom. Brief.
How about okay, so those things weren't so surprising. What were the big surprises then? What was the biggest thing that surprised you this year?
Man.
Wow, you guys are slow on the uptake.
It was just.
It takes a lot to surprise me.
We didn't even get a cue to start thinking about that. It was
tell me Dead Rising then wasn't a surprise.
When I first saw it, I saw the potential and that it was going to be a big game. I didn't think it'd be quite as popular as it is. I think people would be as forgiving of its major gameplay problems.
Viva Pinata.
And Viva Pinata was the other one. So I think the thing about Dead Rising, before we jump too far off of that, is what it was indicative of, and we've talked about this before, you've talked about it a bunch, John, in that these games for 360, people were so hungry for them that they would instantly spike and go up like that. And that was probably the biggest surprise to me, was that 360...
There's a rabid, loyal fan base of Xbox 360?
Yeah.
That surprised you?
Well,
I would say that, yes, that surprised me because I don't think that the Xbox ever demonstrated quite that strong a brand loyalty.
Well, I don't think that it demonstrated it because it was in the process of building it. I mean, that's what
Right.
But as far as the rabid Xbox 360 consumer, you got to remember that these guys were starving from November to March or something. It was okay, we're done with PZ. I know it got 9s, but we're done with it. And then it was till March and Gra and Oblivion.
Right. Well, and frankly, there wasn't much going on outside of Xbox 360 during spring. So most of the exciting stuff like Dead Rising or Oblivion was happening there, Gra. So I think people got wrapped up in it, oh, I'm going to play every game. What are my friends playing? And that's kind of what happened. Everyone around here was doing it.
You weren't surprised by the news that Assassin's Creed was going somewhere other than PS3? That wasn't your surprise of the year. That was one of my favorite moments from the whole year. That was a huge surprise.
The death of the exclusive. I mean, now when you realize it, it isn't that surprising from a financial standpoint. But I think a year ago we thought there'd be more exclusives than there are.
Well, during this year, you thought there'd be more exclusives.
I'd say I know this guy right here thought there'd be some exclusives.
Just pre-E3, you were saying that there was going to be a lot announced at E3.
And so
No, not a lot. There would be something announced that we would buy a PS3 for.
Microsoft, they kind
What was that, by the way?
What was that?
Yeah, what was it that was announced that we would buy our PS3 for?
That didn't end up getting announced, but I also knew about the motion controller. The motion controller was kind of a big deal. But in terms of buying these exclusives, of Microsoft money-hatting exclusives, they kind of led the trip with that. And Sony didn't see the value, and Nintendo didn't see the value. And I think just now they're hopefully starting to realize, having some exclusives is a good idea.
Well, there was a story. I don't remember who it was.
Hold on. Don't. Hold on. We cannot go further. Are you telling me that Sony didn't see the value in exclusives?
Not the value in paying for them, of like outright paying for games. That's not something Sony...
I think related to that, a big surprise of this year was Sony suddenly deciding that they were God's gift to game development and that everything first party was the most important thing for launching a new platform. And it was all... That's what it became. It was like, after that E3 press conference, it was perfectly clear that they were completely introverted when it came to game development.
Okay.
And after 10 years of basically riding on the success of big franchises from other people, to suddenly say, hey, you know what? We're much better at it than you are, so we're going to do it all ourselves.
Yeah, they kind of turn themselves into Nintendo all of a sudden,
And they have no right to do that.
But Nintendo makes money on hardware, and Sony's losing, $300 a pop on the PS3?
I think a big surprise at E3 as well was the fact that the first people to mention Grand Theft Auto in association with the hardware platform was when Peter Moore came out and said it at the Xbox 360 press conference. I thought that was totally unexpected. I mean, we joked about it. In fact, we joked about it the week before the show in May, where we're like, hey, you know what would be a big humdinger is if Microsoft came out and talked about GTA first. And they did. I mean, it's not exclusive, but I thought it was pretty significant that Sony didn't even mention it. And still, probably, I don't think have mentioned it directly as a first party in talking about a game that's important to the platform.
They specifically said over the summer, it was, I think, Jack Tretton who said in an interview that Grand Theft Auto was not important to the success of the PS2.
Because games that sell 12, 30 million copies presumably aren't that significant to selling hardware.
Well, we had a pretty significant conversation about that over the summer. And if I remember correctly, you kind of sort of went with the Tretton logic, right?
Well, you thought it was played out, right?
No. I didn't think it was played out. I think what I said was because it's multi-platform, any of the importance that Grand Theft Auto had as a title, as a system is dead. Yeah. It's not a title that matters. It's just going to be, it'll sell the most on the platform that has the highest install base the day it ships.
Yeah,
that's where Grand Theft Auto is going to sell the most.
I think game fanboys and people in our positions are way too jaded about that genre, because you could just look at what happened this year.
Look at the success of Scarface and Saints
Row. People are craving Grand Theft Auto type experiences.
The clones
all
have gotten better. The clones are decent now. It used to be all the GTA clones were shit, but now they're decent. You can play it and be like, oh, this is kind of like GTA, and it looks better.
Scarface particularly came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and it's shocking because it's awful. I mean, have you played it?
No.
See, I've heard mixed reviews. Some people think it's all right.
But, I mean, it's all right at best, I think. But it's, I mean, it's... And the weird thing about it is that Scarface is what Vice City was based off. So it's... Not only it's sort of like a whole concept looping back on itself.
It's very meta.
Yeah, the source material is worse than the
ripoff.
Which is a ripoff of the ripoff.
That'd be like if a game was better than GTA, right?
Also, a shake-up year. Atari no longer what it used to be, including Dave Perry now making Korean massively multiplayer
for a Reborn Acclaim, right?
What a strange year! Like
Atari does still exist.
Well, but not as they were. No longer internal development.
Right.
Definitely just looking for outside production. I mean, what do you see happening then? What do you think about where the publishing business was in 2006 and what's going to happen to it in 2007?
I don't know. You looked at me. I was like going to bitch about how Atari made the Pong clock stop being made.
What?
Yeah, I was gonna buy it. Yeah,
to kill the Pong clock.
I was gonna buy it for my new apartment. I wanted one really bad, and they closed it down. And you can't fucking buy it now. You got to buy it on eBay, and it's like $400.
I didn't realize they were behind that.
I don't need a timepiece that's $400.
Well, okay, in terms of publishers, I think we're not going to see EA or Ubisoft go down or anything. But I think there's a chance in 2007 for some of the B-level companies that have been struggling to come back if you have the right game at the right time. You can sell a lot of copies. Like I would love to see Virtua Fighter 5 move a lot of copies for Sega. It's a great game. It's coming out at a good time.
Well, I did some predictions at the beginning of this year, and one of the things I said was I thought Sega was going to be like one of the big standouts, and I don't think they really put their foot down on the gas as much as we anticipated.
No.
Like Virtua Fighter 5 I think it's a bit later than we thought. I thought we thought it was going to be a launch game on PS3, or there was going to be a bit more 360 activity.
when you butcher your mascot, that's probably a good indication that you're not putting your
Not only did they
foot down on the
butcher,
gas.
they hoard him out across as many things as they possibly could in the space of, 2 months? How many Sonic games came out in the last quarter?
A couple.
Look, you know what? You can do some whoring out if you get the base franchise right, but that Sonic game's horrible. I mean, it's time to shelve it or re-image it or something. I mean, that doesn't even merit a surprise in here, I guess, because we've kind of been watching the downfall of Sonic over the past 5 years, 6 years. I mean, Shane, you're a Sonic fan, right?
Yeah, I guess.
I thought the DS one was supposed to be okay.
It is good.
That goes through 2 screens.
Oh,
I thought that one was
that is
pretty
good, and I think the
pretty
Wii one
decent.
looks pretty good, but like, Sonic the Hedgehog for PS3 and 360 is not good at all. I mean, it's pretty messed up. Yeah. And Sega has a tough road ahead. Hopefully they'll be able to pump something up.
Well, I think with publishers going forward, I mean, we've talked about it before. I think you're going to start seeing more and more publishers scooped up by I mean, like I said earlier, like Microsoft has a tremendous amount of cash at their disposal.
And Nintendo.
I mean, I absolutely think you're going to start seeing more and more of these like smaller publishers just get scooped up and like put under the wings of a game studio, whether it is.
I think Nintendo might surprise you too. I've even heard rumors of like companies, like Japanese companies you wouldn't think would be acquiring U.S. developers, like looking at U.S. developers.
Well, the other thing, I mean, to talk about too is when we saw the total dissolution of a studio like Clover. I mean, if you're talking about like the developer and the publisher climate for the year. I mean, the dissolution of a studio like that it doesn't bode particularly well.
But the problem with Clover, they were such a little art house niche studio. They
were also very niche, very Japanese, and I think
Right.
to the point that Shane just made. I mean, I think seeing Japanese publishers finally accept that the US and European markets are important for them if they're going to grow, and that what Sega started doing this year, and I mean, it's going to take another year for them to really deliver on it, and handing over what were traditionally Japanese franchises to Western developers. I think it's only a matter of time before we see Capcom and Namco and Konami starting to do that kind of thing as well.
And as much as I'm sad to see Clover go, because Okami is a cool game, look what they did with Beautiful Joe. They came up with something that's clever, people like, and then they run it into the ground in record time with like 5 titles in one once. And by the end, I don't give a shit about Beautiful Joe.
Yeah, and someone knocked us for not talking about God Hand when we were talking about fighting
God Hand's a
games.
disaster.
But
Like, there was a reason.
Yeah, there was a really good reason we didn't talk about God Hand, folks. And that's our opinion was pretty much matched on that.
God Hand is Killer 7 all over again. It's a game I respect. It's different, but it's not actually fun and not actually good.
What about the state of creativity, though, over 2006? I mean, like we talked about a game like Okami, and remember the conversation we had in the taxi cab? What was that, like after the THQ event? We were talking about how Okami bombing in Japan.
Yeah, bombed in Japan.
Despite being incredibly creative and
Well-reviewed.
great art style, it does everything right, and then utterly fails in its home turf. What's going to happen what happened to creativity over 2006?
I think stuff. Increasingly, people were on the big platforms are reversed to taking risks. I think we're going to see a lot of creativity on the handhelds, particularly the DS.
And on Wii.
And on Wii, but a lot of people playing it safe, particularly on 360 and PS3.
Yeah.
Well, what do gamers want? Why are they not buying those games?
Gamers are
Gamers
buying...
want Scarface, apparently.
Well, there's two kinds of gamers. Yeah, there's
Despite
the
the
gamers...
cynicism, though, what do they want?
They want what they know they already want. Except for on like DS, where apparently they want Nintendogs and Brain Age, you know? So where do you draw the line? Who are we talking about here? I think there are two different camps. And who are we talking to?
You don't think that your average Need for Speed consumer spends time raising puppies and Nintendogs
No,
before
I don't.
sleep?
But I also
John
don't think
does.
I also don't think the average Halo player likes Elite Beat Agents, Luke.
I don't think so. I don't. But they should.
But they should.
I think we're getting too caught up in trying to identify the average player of anything, because I think that that's indicative of the kind of people who play games. Some people might grab Elite Beat and Halo, and somebody might grab Nintendo.
Oh, I disagree. I think that your average gaming consumer is you can package pretty neatly.
Yeah,
into
I think you can look at the Xbox 360 and it's like looking at a marketing diagram, and that's why Viva Pinata didn't sell, because it is not in the very narrow.
It's not there
range.
yet. The audience for 360 just isn't ready for a game like that.
Because the audience is very specific.
Yeah.
And you know what you're supposed to make for them, and that's why Dead Rising and Lost Planet are smart investments for Capcom, because they're very targeted.
The games industry likes to sort of put its consumers in little compartments, and it always used to be there were hardcore players and there were casual players, and then the meaning of casual player sort of got messed around with a lot because people started to think of that as Bookworm and Tetris, and the games that you can play on your iPod now. And then out of that grew this enormous middle group that is really difficult to define, that people are starting to call enthusiast or players, or there's lots of different words for it, but it's this big group of like 10 million people that They might play Halo and they might play Elite Beat Agents, but you know what? That's probably all they played this year because something captured their attention and something was like a friend probably told them or a friend who read something or saw something on the One-Up Show or on the Spike Awards and went, hey, that looks really cool. We should try that. And they'll play that and then they'll put it down and not play anything else for ages.
Because of that, by nature, they're unpredictable and you can't imagine what exactly they're going to play.
And the DS has really been stirring that up because every now and then there'll be a thing, well, that sounds pretty good. I mean, the number of people that picked up Elite Beat Agents, and if you'd have described that game to them, it would have been, there is no way I'm playing a game about fucking dudes cheerleading.
Right, I mean, the same reason.
That's exactly what I would have said. That was like a perfect impression.
Yeah, I mean, almost all the DS success stories are these weird games. Like, you can't imagine, the lawyer game or the doctor game. Like, no, but people bought these because they're different, and you can't predict that they're going to be popular. It's very, very strange.
But I think that, in some ways, is proof of the way that gaming is changing as part of entertainment, and that you can't predict it anymore. And it's like with movies. Like, you know, the movie industry, I'm sure, is like, okay, the following movies are going to be big this year. You know, Superman is going to be big, and this is going to be big. And then something will come out of the blue, and it'll blow people away, and it'll be like...
Well, like Borat. Like,
yeah.
There was a big gamble, like, the week before. Everyone was like, well, is this going to work? And then it's huge.
I think so. It's good that it's happening, but it's like as everything's getting bigger and the net's getting cast wider and wider, we need these unusual things. And I think the surprises moving forward are going to be the number of times that happens and the fact that the hardcore group that has always driven taste in this industry are only going to be driving us. They're not going to be driving taste across the board. They might be the guys that are telling their friends, hey, you should try this thing out. It's kind of cool. But things are going to be popping up all over the place. And I think Scarface speaks to this as well. None of the traditional methods for finding out that a game was worth playing said, hey, you should check out Scarface.
Right.
Everyone was like, it's a
But I also
GTA
think
romper.
it's just a game like Wii Sports around the office, and even among EGM staff, it's so divisive on how you feel about this game and what you think of it, because it's so outside of the norm, what we're used to, and it's forcing us to kind of reevaluate what we judge games on.
So let me get you to clarify your thought because I'm curious about this. So there's people out there, and I think one of the things I was thinking of while we were talking about these people who buy like one game and a console and they play that is sports gamers. The people who, especially like Madden players, they bought Madden, they bought a console, it's all they play. Are we going to ever get to a point where we're enticing them to play something else, or are they always going to be that?
Maybe, and they probably do play something else. But the thing is the games industry is so reliant on what, in the grand scheme of things, is a small group of people doing what the 360 audience did this week. And that's moving from Dead Rising to Oblivion to whatever the fuck came next, and just going through these games in sequence the way we all did. And it's just... that's not going to happen. I think it's the Madden gamer and the WWE SmackDown gamer and the Tony Hawk gamer they're maybe going to play their favorite game and a couple of others, and that might be enough. But this is also where I think Sony has messed up with the pricing of the PS3, is that guy can't justify this new platform just to play the 2 or 3 games that he might want to play in a year.
Which is where the core, especially the core unit 360, really comes in strong for them.
Exactly.
That was a big surprise for me this year, especially at the beginning of the year, was how quickly the tide turned on people calling the 360 core the TARD unit to, you know what?
I still call it the TARD unit. I think it's going to get more retarded in 2007.
Okay.
As more and more peripherals get announced, as larger hard drives, more things you have to buy, new controllers.
It's only on sale here now, right? They don't sell it in Europe, they don't sell it in Japan, right?
I think there's some big reshuffle coming in how you're buying a 360. I don't know when we're going to see it, but I think they have to reformulate.
You know, I agree, and I always thought that the hard drive was a necessary component, but based on that presentation that we got over the summer, where they were insistent that they're going to keep the core pack and they want to drive the core pack price down under $200 to make it accessible, that's a pretty compelling argument, especially tied in with what John was talking about.
They have some conflicting goals at Microsoft right now because they want more and more people on Xbox Live and they want you taking advantage of all these services, and then at the same time they're saying, hey, we have this cheap thing that you can't do that stuff on.
Right.
So at some point, they need to cop to the fact that the reason they want the $200 core is so you'll go and buy the $200 hard drive instead of the 20 gig that you get with. I think that's the real conceit here, is that, you know, maybe there might be a $450 100 gig version of the 360, or it's like you go buy the cheap one and slap a hard drive on it, you know, if you want it in another room, or there's some weird sort of rebalancing to what Shane was saying of how the 360 is going to be positioned, because there's a bunch of stuff about the package that's already out of date. 20 gig is tiny. I mean, it's what, 2 movies?
It was tiny when it started.
If they make the hard drive cost $200, there will be blood flowing in the streets.
Well, it depends how big it is, right? I mean, people have been kicking around the fact that there was this 100 gig drive in Korea as being, well, that's obviously what's coming. Even 100 gig, if you're going to be renting a couple of movies from the Xbox Live service, if the library gets really good, and you're using it for all the other things that they want you to use the 364, even 100 gig isn't enough.
Well, I think you had the right of it, though, when you talked about them having virtual drive space via Live.
But there's still no indication that that's coming.
There's no indication that they're going to deploy the live drive as any sort of technology. It's still
But the
exists
thing is,
only in terms of
if
messenger
they
client.
do reconfigure a new Xbox 360 that has everything in it and it's remade, well, how different can it be? And is it still going to be completely compatible? You know, like
It can't be too different, yeah, because it needs to be,
Right.
ultimately, it's got to work exactly the way
Right.
the system works right now.
The HDMI-enabled Super Pack with fourth core unlocked.
right.
With fourth core unlocked.
So yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting story to watch in 2007. Is what exactly happens with 360 hardware.
Yeah.
And Blu-ray built in.
Wow.
HD DVD built in, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so I know at least one game that for me was like really monumental this year was Tomb Raider, because I was very, very happy to see Lara back. I mean, I've always been
But, it's funny. That's a game that's going to be completely overlooked in the end of the year awards.
It
and
is,
stuff.
except I'm going to be running around like championing it because it was.
Has it appeared in any of the awards voting you've seen? Is it in our awards?
I mean,
Yes.
if there was
It
like
is?
a
Yeah.
if there was like a
You fought for
return.
it?
Garnet updated the website himself.
I mean, if there's like a comeback award or
Damn
like
well better, because
a
I put it
return
in
to
there.
form award, I think it might get a nod there. But I think the
Even more
competition
than
is just
comeback,
too fierce.
it was one of the best adventure games this year. It was
You think?
Yes, absolutely. It was one of the
By the rest
single
of you,
most
do you
fun
guys-
games I played.
I only played it briefly, but a lot of people said it was too short. That's the complaint I heard from a lot of people.
You only think a game is too short if you enjoyed the hell out of it and you wanted it to last longer.
I didn't play it.
Just didn't. I tried it, and it just didn't register for me as significant this year. I mean, I think the idea of it being a comeback game is, yeah, fine, but all it did was it recaptured former glory at the level that it previously had it. It didn't take it any further. It had sunk so low below the line that it had set, and it just got back up to the line it was at the first place.
Normalizing it. It's like, oh,
Yeah. Okay. It's
The
back.
line was-
It's back on track as an okay franchise now. But it
Okay.
didn't-
Wait.
So this is like the 9th game. They
Lara
fucked
Croft
up
was not okay.
We're not.
the
well,
Garnet. There
we're
hadn't
not
been a
talking
good
about
Tomb Raider
improved
since Tomb Raider
Garnet.
2.
Yeah, I mean, and I would argue here that I think Tomb Raider was always overrated. So, like, a return to form for Tomb Raider would be like, oh, it's a solid 7.
Tomb Raider original. You're wrong. The original Tomb Raider, one of the best adventure exploration games ever made, and this game right up there with it.
As long as you don't care about gameplay.
Wow.
I disagree.
The opinionated Garnet Lee and Shane Benhausen squaring off.
Completely disagree. It for the first time, the animation was able to keep up with the controls.
I'll give it for the first time. It actually had a control scheme that didn't make me want to kill somebody. I pressed
Jesus.
forward and went forward. Imagine
We've
that.
now this Skip just made the ding sound. We've now talked about Tomb Raider more than anyone else this year has.
Yeah, we have. I realize we're not going
Garnet likes
Whatever.
it.
I really like the game a lot. I think
You're
it was
allowed to
excellent.
like. I'm glad you like it.
I think that what they did was, and I don't know how much Toby had to do with it because he was brought in a consulting position, but they found the confidence to just do a Tomb Raider game and not feel compelled to try and make
I
it
wouldn't give
something
him
else.
too much credit.
I know.
As someone who reviewed Galleon.
You know what?
wouldn't give him much
I
credit.
kind of think that he probably was involved, but maybe spiritually more
Yeah.
than just actually. in the
Crystal
nuts and
Dynamics are a
bolts.
good team.
Exactly, and regardless, they had the confidence and they had the backing to go in and just make a good Tomb Raider game. Okay, so somebody else.
I think it's significant that you're bringing it up again when it came out when did it come out? Like early in the year?
Yeah, it was
May?
April. or
Yeah,
May.
May.
It was on the
I was
show.
going to bring up something like Kingdom Hearts 2, There Might Get Forgotten, which is a really good game earlier.
Wow,
in
was
the
that this year?
Yeah, or MGS3 Subsistence, which is another excellent chance. If you never,
How have you liked the online for that?
it's great. If you never played Metal Gear Solid 3,
Oh, well evaded.
you should totally play Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence. It's fantastic.
He enjoys it almost as much as he does the PS2 network adapter.
Mint in sealed box.
How about you, Luke?
For what games I like? Because I think
something
that
forgotten over the year, whatever.
I think it's just pretty remarkable that we've talked for this long without talking about the single greatest bane in video gaming.
Band.
No, microtransactions.
Oh yeah, I thought about it earlier. I thought about it earlier, but then I decided not to talk about it because I didn't want anybody upset.
No, how can you're talking about the stuff that mattered from this year, and this is the year where sort of like these new models emerge, and we talked about. I mean, if you listen way back to like when we first started talking in March, and we were talking about digital distribution as like a viable form of distribution, and episodic content as a new way.
Oh, I got
to
a follow up coming on that.
What happened to Sin Episode 2?
It's right here, baby. Just let me get to that one.
You know, a new way to get game experiences delivered to your PC, and how Steam could change everything. And it was like
we were pretty upbeat on the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
No, I wasn't.
You thought that? Well,
It was a general positive tone.
Yeah, the concept of delivering things regularly. I think there were a lot of caveats when we were saying it. It had to be regular, and they had to be able to deliver on everything, because there was the promise of there was Sam and Max, Half-Life, Sin. There was a bunch of episodic
Sam and
stuff.
Max is the only one that's coming close to doing
And they're only at episode 2, right?
Right. And so we had this argument then, and I'll come back to it again now. We might as well do it now. Half-Life, where's the next episode? It's being delayed again and again and again, just like we said it would. Sin, who knows what happened? That completely fell off the map. Episodic content doesn't work when it's 6 months intervals. It doesn't work
Sin
when it's longer.
supposed to survey how players played the game to adjust and adapt and be this great community effort to improve the game, and it's like, guess what, you're not doing it anymore. Episodic content failed.
I'm not willing to say that 2006 was the year of either microtransactions or episodic content, because I feel like it's a testing ground. It's a lawless land where anything goes. There's no regulation. No one's really done it well yet, but I think 2007 we're going to see a lot more, especially on the console side.
Bullshit, not until it's done right. I can tell you, take a look at what we were talking about before this show started. What were we talking about? You guys' favorite television show, The Office.
Oh, The Office.
Because you get your Office fix weekly, and so you're able to sustain that conversation. And when The Office is in season, you're sustaining it and you're doing it until they can deliver episodic content like that. It's not going to have any purchase because it just doesn't work. It's just games and expansion packs.
Well, for me, the year was really how Horse Armor killed video games.
Oh, now we're back to microtransactions.
Well, no, it is that's the single greatest. I think that's the single biggest jumping off point with what has and will continue to change.
That was the top burner on the 9th level of hell, because it went way down from there.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And it started off, and even Bethesda ended up doing it. Bethesda got considerably better, but then EA and Ubisoft just picked up that torch and burned. And cheats, and all that stuff is just ridiculous.
All the Need for Speed bullshit.
Yeah, you can buy the game 8 times.
So where are we going with this? How bad is this going to be in 07?
I think the Bohica is going to continue.
Well, and in terms of the episodic stuff, I think we'll be surprised because we're going to see some first-party stuff on both 360 and PS3 that's episodic only in 2007.
I don't mind that if they have it ready before they start,
Right.
It's like, they have some foresight. So it's not like, hey, we'll do episode 1 and, oh shit, now we're going to do episode 2. And it takes a lot longer than we thought. Half-Life 2 episode 1 turned into Half-Life 3, basically, and it was only 4 hours long.
And surprise. And Valve can never ship a product when they want to because they're perfectionists. They're going to put out a fantastic product. It's like asking Bill Roper to make Hellgate episodic. It would be absurd.
But, Phil Harrison was one of the first guys, certainly in the platform holders, to talk about this stuff. And even back on PS2, he was talking about how this was the future and it was why they were going to do the hard drive and why there was a big hole in the back of the PS2. It was because this, there was going to be a hard drive and you'd fill it up with episodic content, and something like a role-playing game would be doled out in chunks. And the only way it's going to happen is if someone like Square or whatever does a Dragon Quest where they build this 50-hour game, and instead of shipping it on a disc, they say, you know what, it's essentially a linear game. We're going to carve it up into 10 chunks and we're going to give it to you monthly, and you subscribe to it. But the game, I think the game has to be finished or nearly finished when it starts, so that it's actually done the way a TV show is. You were talking about The Office being every week. One of the reasons that 24 starts in January now is because a couple of years ago, 24 had a 6-week break in the middle, and it crippled its ratings for that season because people stopped caring.
Lost says hi.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Breaking Lost into 2 seasons is a way of sort of half doing it. They did it with Heroes as well. It's like, well, at least with Heroes, it wasn't really a conclusion, but they brought it to a point where it's like, okay, we're going to leave it alone for a while and we'll come back and do 11 in sequence. But with 24, they did a couple on, 3 weeks off, then they did 6 weeks off, and then they came back, and everyone had forgotten what happened. Right. So you need it with games as well. And, we had this argument back in whenever it was, March.
March.
And we were saying, what is a good time period? And I think we settled on maybe monthly is okay. I think even monthly is pushing it.
Especially if you're talking about a 50-hour game that you're dividing up over 10 installments to release one a month, like 5 hours
and if it's
of game.
if it's good and it snags you, you'll play through an episode in one sitting. So
and then what?
And then what? Okay, right. So there was no conclusion to that, or heaven forbid you leave it at a cliffhanger.
Right.
You're totally unfulfilled and unrewarded. Halo 2,
Yeah.
Half-Life.
Rainbow Six Vegas. I mean, there's been a bunch of them.
Empire Strikes Back.
Half-Life Episode 1. You build that entire you build that entire relationship with Alex, and then at the end of it, you're like, shit, what happened to her? I want to
Yeah.
go save her. I want to go save her. Oh, by the time I get a chance to go save her,
Alex
I'll need
Garnett
to buy a new
gaming
PC.
blue balls.
What happened to Alex? She's on all fours.
thanks.
Do you have a minute to run through our biggest disappointment games of the year?
Absolutely.
Because I have a list here. I wanted to.
Oh my gosh, you have a list?
Really random stuff here. Things that disappointed me. Genji.
Surprise.
Dirge of Cerberus. Terrible.
Oh my God! Skip playing Dirge of Cerberus was the most awesome.
I remember
moment
that.
for me of the year.
Were we ever thinking that was going to be good?
I thought it might be better than it is. 99 Nights.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, man.
Ultimate Ghouls and Ghosts. Sonic.
4.5.
Wow, gaff thread, boom.
That was amazing.
I mean, I don't think it's nearly as bad as him, but it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be.
Yeah, I wanted that
and
to
me
be good.
personally, PSU, though I do still intend to go back and see what's going on because I heard.
I'm sorry, Skip just banned me.
You're banned. Yeah, you're not allowed
I'd
to
like
say
to add one to that. Luminous 2.
I disagree with you. I think
Yeah.
Luminous 2 is a big improvement over Luminous 1. And all the haters are just realizing they were wrong a year ago when they thought Luminous was ever a 9 because it never was.
I just think Luminous is enough for me on that. I don't need Luminous again.
What about Luminous Live?
Well, that kind of proved it to me. Is that all I needed is just drop in those blocks once. I don't
Anyone
need
have
it
a Luminous
twice.
2 I can borrow. I kind of like to
I
check
can
it out.
let you borrow it, yeah.
I mean, it's worth checking out. And maybe if you've never played the first one, you go with the second one. But it's one of those games where
For me, it replaces Luminous. It's an upgrade, so it replaces
Right.
Luminous.
I don't mean to bag on the PSP, but Loco Roco's in that same boat.
Disappointment.
Oh, totally,
totally,
disappointment.
yeah.
That game was so uninteresting and so boring.
Poor little Loco Roco.
It's just, And I got an email this week that I've got my you can get your Loco Roco holiday version gameplay
Do
demo.
people still give a shit?
Wow.
Another franchise that Sony, I think, have mismanaged is SOCOM. Completely melted.
Spreading a little thin.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
And
there's a rumor in EGM about 2 SOCOMs for PS3 next year. And
Well, I mean, I think them expanding it as a franchise beyond just an online shooter or whatever, and there's talk of there being like something more tactical based around it, and
Yeah.
a PS3 game and a PSP game. But just the last SOCOM on PS2 was a bit meh, and Fireteam Bravo 2, which reviewed really well, but is anyone playing it?
No.
so first SOCOM for PSP is actually one of the best-selling games.
Yeah.
Look, I think they're kind of getting to the level of how far they can actually take that Zipper game. Because before SOCOM, the game that Zipper had built, like, original and a sequel of, basically became SOCOM. I can't even remember the game. Do you remember the game?
No.
No.
Zipper had a tactical game like that, and that's why they got to wind up building SOCOM. And they're still just iterating on it. So, I mean, it's, it
And
needs legs.
before I get kicked out here, I got to go run back and do my deadline. I'm not going to be here for the last segment. I want to run through my sleepers of the year.
Wait a minute, you can't get rid of disappointments before we talk about Superman, can we?
You expected that to be good?
Yeah, we don't even need to talk about
Luke gets a special
Superman.
shout out. Drill Dozer, which you lent me, sleeper of the year. Nobody played it. Great game for GBA. Daxter, a PSP game that nobody played. It's actually good.
That's true.
It came out this year. Yakuza, and it's not for everybody,
The
but
Siphon Filter game on PSP was surprisingly good as well.
that's another sleeper. It's not on here. Yakuza, as you might have missed, I think it's a pretty cool
Yakuza
game.
is at the very tip top of my pile of shame for 2006, and I will play that damn thing.
And Rocket Slime for DS. It was like a huge flop, but it's a really fun game.
One thing that you didn't mention that I want to mention is probably my favorite PSP game of the year is Mega Man Powered Up.
You did like that one
I
a lot.
loved Mega
You
Man.
did like-
I love Mega Man Powered Up. I want to see Mega Man 2.
Well, I
Powered-
know you love, but did you both like Field Commander for PSP? That's another-
Oh, yeah.
Field Commander.
PSP.
See, Field Commander was all right. I just, as I was moving my desk, this
Advance
week, I
Wars
found it.
PSP.
Yeah, Advance Wars PSP. That was good. It was all right.
And my last one was
That actually went to retail this year, didn't it?
Valkyrie Profile 2, which is a huge flop. Also a good game for PS2.
Oh, you were really hot for that when you were reviewing
it's
it, I
good.
remember.
Very good game.
Didn't you and Milky arm wrestle over it or something?
We might
In
have.
fact, was that the one you said was one of the best looking PS2 games, period?
Yes. It was really good graphics.
All right, so before we head off to news, let's do one of Luke's favorite things, which is capture some of the favorite quotes of the year. I know a couple people have some.
I have a good one.
Mr. John, what do you have for us?
We want for consumers to think to themselves, I will work more hours to buy one. We want people to feel that they want it, irrespective of anything else. The PS3 will instill discipline in our children and adults alike. Everyone will know discipline. Who said that?
Kaz?
No,
Ken?
it's
Double
Crazy
K.
Double K.
Oh,
I was
Ken.
just thinking, like, that would have been a really good.
sounds more Ken,
a really
you're
good
right.
game that we could have had a contest where we came up with like 70 quotes and like people had to attribute the different quotes from the. That would have been good. I like. I mean, you know, Sony's good for quotes. I think Microsoft can be pretty good for quotes sometimes too. I think 1080p will be basically impossible. I think if you talk to any developer, they will tell you they will not have a game performing in 1080p. That's Microsoft's technical lead, who actually was in here a week ago showing us Gears of War in 1080p. Yeah, looking like ass in analog.
Did you feed him a crow while he was here?
Yeah. So I might as well round it out with a little Reggieism for you, because it really ties right into this. The next leap is not about what you see, because what you see is not always what you get. The next leap is about playing, because, and I'll just insert this here because
God.
Nintendo fans know it, because playing is believing.
It is.
That's the Nintendo mantra right there.
I still like we will sell 10 million units. We will sell 10 million units before our competitors are at market.
Well,
I thought it was before any PS3 reaches the player's hands or something.
Something like that.
Not so much.
Yeah.
I guess when we get back in a minute for the news segment, you'll have some more Nintendo information on how many they might be replacing.
Yeah, God. Whatever.
All right,
Big
so
news.
Big news. So stick around. We'll be back in just a minute. Shameless, but, you know, we'll have the news, and Luke will be here. Hang out. We'll be right back.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. But as long as you're here, let me tell you about EGM Live, the weekly podcast from the editors of Electronic Gaming Monthly, along with the wonderful sounds of... EGM Live comes action-packed with special guests, late-breaking news, fanboy-baiting commentary, behind-the-scenes tales of office tomfoolery, and trivia contests with fantabulous prizes. Download it now at egmlive.oneup.com or subscribe to it through iTunes.
EGM Live is part of the OneUp Radio Network, taped in the Ziff Davis offices in San Francisco. It is not actually live, and contest prizes are not guaranteed to be fantabulous.
You're listening to One Up Yours on the One Up Radio Network.
All right, we're back and ready to do some news with Luke. But first, joining us now is special guest star. I love that title for you, Mark. Special guest star.
Special deadline guest star.
That's the benefit. You know, if you're hearing like a little different in the acoustics today, we're up here on the 8th floor recording because the 5th floor studio is a little booked. And it's really easy to grab Mark when he's 2 offices down.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Everybody's much more, I don't know, sober.
Yeah, the fluorescent lights suck.
Yeah.
It's totally
Yeah, they're a little
dumbing.
draining here.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Luke Smith, take it away.
Well, I want to start off with good news because I firmly believe in ending on bad notes. So we'll start with Sony, and I was really happy to see this. It sure came on the heels of the DQ9 stuff, which we're going to talk about in a second. But Final Fantasy Tactics is probably one of my 10 favorite games ever.
You have the original, not
I-
greatest hits version.
Yeah,
as
I
you
have
proudly showed me.
I pre-ordered this. I have it. I have the first pressing. I love it. I love that game. And it's coming to the PSP with, like, I don't know, 10% more content, some cartoon cutscenes, a new character, a new, like, playable class, the Onion Knight, and it's going to be like $50. And I'll probably buy it.
You know what would be
People
cool?
object to you calling them cartoon cutscenes. It's anime. I think you'll find.
It's a cartoon, all right? Unless there's a tentacle going in and out of something, fucking it, then it's anime.
I think.
Otherwise, it's a cartoon.
I think
I think that's a Dreamcast game, actually.
I think that's several Dreamcast games. But
Sam
I think
showed them to me in my interview.
one great thing that could hopefully come out of this is even biggest Final Fantasy Tactics fans will admit the story to that game is screwed up. It's ridiculous. It's complicated. It's convoluted. It's awful. It had a bad translation. I don't even know how the original Japanese was, but maybe Square, it'll get the treatment that their other recent games have, and they'll take this chance to revamp that one shitty part about it.
And a sequel to Final Fantasy Tactics, I guess Tactics Advance is what Jonathan's story says, is going to head to the DS. And I don't really care about that because I thought Tactics Advance was kind of...
You didn't like the whole kids spiraling into
Didn't care about... I wanted more like Shakespearean drama and Orlando. Sony, Garnet, and John both freaked out about this week. We sort of we just sort of watched the cars crash in 1UP News and waited until we could pull corpses out from the wreckage.
Oh, and this was a SIG alert of major proportions.
Because we could have written about it from Go, but I sat back. I think like John linked it to me every day to be like write about it. And I was like, I'm waiting.
Well, they kept doing something more and more fucking stupid every day.
But I wanted to, I felt like the winds of change were going to rapidly approach. All I want for Christmas is a PSP.com. and approach and blow by, because that website is done already.
I took it down.
Yeah, it's. I think it's over
because it was identified as being a heinous mistake.
They've done some outstanding marketing this year. That goes right up there with that billboard that they put up over in
the black and white
the PSP.
Yeah,
they really know how to do this.
Actually, someone emailed me a picture of the giant PSPs that they have up. There's one in Soho in New York.
Right.
It's right near the Rockstar offices. Someone sent me a picture saying, "See, even the giant ones have dead pixels."
Oh, that's good. I will say I like the PS3 ads. I like the White Room ads.
You like the baby?
It's interesting you say that.
The baby's disturbing.
Yeah.
But I remember it, and I like the way they show the 6 axis with the egg. I mean, there are a lot of parts of the PS3 to show off, and they're very iconic. I remember them. It says to me expensive, sophisticated, like high-end machine.
I like the the hovering and the throbbing. I just wish that they delivered more on sort of what this
software
means for you.
part,
because there's things like, I mean, who really gives a shit about the cell? Like trying to build an ad around the fact that it's got a really cool processor. I mean, like
that Rubik's Cube did right before it blew up.
But just the coolness of the ad works much better than the sort of the specifics of the message they were trying to get across. But in Next Gen's 25 people or whatever, Peter Dilley was number 7 or something, and they cited the TV campaign as something that everyone overlooked because everyone was so distracted by bitching about everything else.
Right. I mean, I think some people, it's like, yeah, great, I already want a PS3. Like, The Onion had that bit, like, it's just cruel and shitty to be advertising a product that people want to go out and buy, and you can't already, and you're advertising it in their face. But like I say, I still like them.
But if you want a PSP, there's that site, so now you know how to help out, get on that Christmas list.
And the PSP ads, like, on the other end of the spectrum, that one with the guy wakes up and the girl in bed, it's like...
She's left a 4 gig card on his bed?
What the hell's going on? I don't even know. I still don't know. They're like, it's like a scavenger hunt or meet me at a concert. I don't know. It's stupid.
I haven't even seen that commercial.
It's bad.
It's bad.
It shows SOCOM for like 1 second, and then the rest of it's like, what is this thing? Is it a picture of you? What's going on?
Well, Sony's advertising on television is weird to begin with, because like I was watching a commercial last night, and there was a couple talking in this commercial, and they had a PSP, and I was like, is this a PSP commercial? And it then you see another product, and it becomes it morphs into a commercial from Target, but it was still like goofy and fucked up and weird. I was like, this is a Sony ad, but it's not. It was Target.
Oh, good, thank you.
Yeah. So Target, good ad. When is the PS3 coming out in Europe? This is sort of...
Next year.
Yeah, sometime in 2007. Sony Europe said it's coming out still in March. A report over at Computer Video Games said that it was coming out in September. And the guy who gave the quote is David Reeves. He
good. He's always good for a good quote.
Well, he's great because David Reeves is the same, Sony guy who said that the PS3 launched last March, on around March 8th or 9th, when we still believed that the PS3 was going to come out in the spring. He said, PS3 launch, fully on track. Totally
global.
On track.
Nothing to see here.
Global. And that was before, that was a week and a half before they were like, worldwide launch in November.
That's where you put up the Iraqi Minister of Information picture, right? As no, this Baghdad's great.
Yeah,
there's tanks in the background, rolling past.
The last line from our news story after we pointed out that Reeves had said that the PS3 launch was on track was, consider the source. Though I wish you would have had the Iraqi Minister of Defense. Sony maintains that they're going to meet their PS3 shipment targets for this year.
Of 5.
Well, and that's why the European launch has been delayed, because they're funneling that process, over to America.
Well, and I don't have it written down here, but McNeely and his analyst group just reported today that they expected Sony to sell 900,000 PS3s by the end of the year, which would mean they're going to ship 700,000 in December.
Not buying that.
Yeah, not so much.
I hope so. I really hope so. I mean, they need those things out there. So hopefully that's true.
So apparently Sundays, we're hearing, is a good day to go try and find one.
I guess, yeah. That's what it sounds like. People are holding it back. The last great shopping day, not going to buy one.
Retailers playing that we're going to pump up our numbers game, get everybody in, and
last week before Christmas.
If you don't get a PS3 this fall, don't worry about it. Sony says that gamers are going to wait. You're going to wait for a PS3. They can buy a Wii, but the Wii is just a novelty item. This came from Dave Carricker, the Senior Director of Corporate Communications at Sony, who's taken a pretty aggressive approach with comments, I guess. His exact quote was, "We feel very confident that the PlayStation fan is going to wait until they can get a PlayStation 3. If they do pick up a Wii, it's more as a novelty." Oh.
I mean, I have to say I agree with the second part of that. I think the thing that he's not talking about 360. If somebody picks up a 360, maybe they won't buy a PS3. But like people who are buying a Wii, either you weren't going to buy a PlayStation, you're just a Nintendo fan or a kid, or if you're buying one, it's not going to replace your PlayStation 3. It's not going to. You know, you're still going to need, if you want the high-end console, you're
Well, I
going to
think
go
one of the things they're
360.
trying to do is they're trying to steer the fight into the two things that launch together and just say, hey, look, you know,
Right.
we launched at the same time and we were so much better.
Well, and it's because a lot of magazines, a lot of people are doing, newspapers are doing stories about the next-gen systems, and they're only doing PS3 and Wii.
Yeah.
And because 360 has been out for a year. But I think it's true. Like, if people buying a Wii now are either not the PlayStation audience, or if they are, they'll buy a PS3 later on.
A year and a half, if there's something worth playing on it.
I mean, the thing that they should be worried about, and the thing he didn't talk about, is 360. Like that, I think somebody they can't get a PS3, they will buy a 360, and then they might never buy a PS3.
You go to a Best Buy right now, there are mountains of 360s. I mean, you can't not notice it. I mean, like there's two near me.
There's shrines
and
built in
there's
the
these
shape of
shrines
Peter Moore.
made out of 360 boxes. They just pile them up, and like they're right inside the door. And there's all the accessories, and there's that crazy wheel that no one's using that weighs about 100 weight. That they're all piled up, and there's a lot of 360 stuff in Best Buy right now.
If you were to guess, let's say Sony did a recall on the PS3 because they have that Bluetooth controller issue that they probably should look into fixing. Like, how many PS3s would they have to recall? What, like 400,000 probably, right? I mean, that's about probably how many are floating around right now. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah.
Well, Nintendo's got 3.2 million Wiis that they're recalling because of the wrist strap, which we talked about this morning. You issued the quote about it. What? Because a wrist strap, really?
I don't understand why there's a hardware recall for a wrist strap, which isn't attached in the first place. You have to opt to put it on there anyway. I mean, why not just do a... I mean, what are the terms of the recall?
You just send in your strap, right, and they send you a new one, and all machines from now on will have
the new strap.
wider strap.
If I understood correctly, you just call the 800 service number.
And they'll send you a new one.
Right.
That makes
Yeah, I mean,
sense.
it's not
There
like
you go,
it's not like
yeah.
a recall like when your car has a flaw that's going to
No.
blow it up, or you drive the Vanagon.
But I mean,
the
this is
Nissan
their way of
dealership.
handling what is essentially a human error issue. I mean, like, you shouldn't be doing shit that hard anyway.
Nintendo's trying to account for their stupid fan base.
The nice news is that the new strap, a little bit nicer made. A
Sturdy.
little bit higher. It's high quality. Looks a little bit.
I'm glad I didn't early adopt. Fucking when I buy my Wii, I'm
right.
gonna have an awesome strap.
By the time you get it,
Standstill
it'll be like steel chain.
Be like handcuffing yourself to it.
Some
fucking
third party
awesome.
out there going, damn, we were going to build a pro strap.
I'm into that. I'll do that. Dragon Quest IX, we talked about this earlier. This is, I mean, without a doubt, could be the biggest news, maybe even some of the biggest news from the year, depending on how long-reaching we see this as, from like a development perspective. Dragon Quest IX, a huge deal in Japan, not so much here, announced for the Nintendo DS.
so huge.
I mean, it's going to sell what, like a
trillion.
fuck ton?
It's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know how much you guys talked about this earlier, but the thing that it
Not much.
reminded me and other people of was Final Fantasy VII going to the PlayStation. Like,
Yeah.
it was a little different because at that time neither system had really proved itself. DS has proved itself, but like to take this series from the system that it's been on now for the last two, and then
I think it could be more significant than the Final Fantasy moving to PlayStation, though, because not only is it moving, I mean, it's moving to a completely different form factor as the real sequel
Right.
in sequence. Not doing it on a console, doing it on a handheld, and saying that the handheld is the most viable platform for presenting the experience that we want to do. It's not a cut down version, it's not a portable version, it's the next game.
it's so like this never happens. I mean, imagine Final Fantasy 14 is going to be on the Game Boy Advance or the PSP or something like that. It's just it's crazy, but it's just a testament to the DS in Japan. It owns Japan.
And at TGS, if you walked through the Square Enix booth, that was readily apparent that they were being firmly committed to the DS as their second,
Well, I mean,
or maybe even to be their first platform.
They've got to be making a retarded amount of money on repurposing, repackaging, and updating SNES games. I mean, just stupid amounts of cash swimming in it for stuff like FF3, FF5. I mean, like the development cost on updating something like that is probably
the development cost on doing a handheld game was significantly less. I mean, like, you talk to guys like Planet Moon that went PSP only because it was cheaper, and it was all about, we can do a game where we can be really creative, we can do it with a much smaller budget, we can put 10-15 guys on it instead of 100 guys, which it takes to do a PS3 game, come out with something, take some risks, do more games. I think we're going to see this a lot more now, and like, I think we'll see a lot more Western developers pushing hard on DS as well.
That's what I was going to say.
And I'm going to start the push right now for another Square game that I'm arguing with them about that looks more and more like they're not going to bring it here. If you like Front Mission, start yelling and screaming at Square Enix, because Front Mission on DS at TGS looked great. It's a perfect fit for the console, for the handheld DS.
There are so many games that would work.
They're very reluctant about that right now. So start yelling and screaming at Square to bring Front Mission DS to North America.
I want Blizzard to start doing DS games. They have so many, like StarCraft, Warcraft, do that on DS. There's so many things that we've not been able to do on a handheld before because you needed something that replicated the mouse or whatever. Well, you have that now.
Done.
Should be really interesting too to see that game. Like, Dragon Quest games don't traditionally like really push the hardware, but I'm suspecting even if they scale down the team, it's still going to be a really big team. So to see what they do on the DS with that game is going to be really interesting. I expect it to be huge.
Do we know what the memory limitations are of the DS card format? And is it expandable like they've done before where they did big cartridges? We should look into that, because that would be an interesting thing to like kind of say, okay, what are the limitations they're going to work within?
Europe, Wii, launch, 350,000 units sold, 2 days, tons.
Next.
Easy. Surprise.
So these peripherals that have started to pop up for the Wii now, already, like something like a wireless sensor bar, which, would have been nice to have, but it costs $25, which is like a 10% of the console. Is it really worth it to you? The NES skin, which is like totally ripping off what Nintendo's going to inevitably do before Nintendo does it, like they did with the GBA-SP, and there was like that great Nintendo skin. Well, there's one that you can buy at Decal Girl. They've made one for like $15. There's a Wii compatible USB Ethernet adapter. So if you're having, since Nintendo doesn't put theirs out for another month until January, you can solve that problem too.
That was cool, yeah.
Surprise! Nintendo commissioned a study to that uncovered 52% of grandparents and 68% of baby boomers want to find high-tech goodies underneath their Christmas tree. But that's a Nintendo commission study.
Well, it's also high-tech goodies. It didn't exactly say a DS, does it?
Yeah, I mean, and it depends. Like, what's the threshold on a high-tech goodie? Like a good 4,000 megahertz phone?
Yeah, I mean, you know what a high-tech goodie is? To channel chain here a second. An iPod.
An N80.
Wow, you got that down.
That's good. That is very...
I do what I can.
So we'll switch over real quick to Microsoft. The Madden 360, the online game, has finally been patched. Garnet, is that going to make it fun?
I don't know. I have to go back to it. I mean, the problem was lag over the play, right? And it's always been a matter of how good your connection is. So, if you have a good optimized broadband, I never played with people who had bad lag, but apparently it was a bad problem. I think it would be a big deal, yes.
More from revamping online. Capcom decided this week in a move that we really haven't seen from too many developers ever, that they're going to revamp the Lost Planet matchmaking from the ground up. And the lobby system is something that we've complained about a little bit with Lost Planet, and it sounds like the changes they're going to make, stuff like being able to have private slots, being able to invite friends to a match. Doesn't this sound very like what you would expect to have it? Well, it's going to.
This is a huge deal because the best way to play that game is team-based, and what they're going to have finally is not kicking you out and having to search for games, so you can build your group and play in teams and keep playing and keep playing and keep playing without having to quit a session and search for games again.
Hang on, guys. I'll be right back. Just invite me.
Forget it. Not going to have to do that.
You know who hasn't fixed it yet? Mark, Rain, Cliffy, B, Mike Caps, Gears of War.
Fear as well.
360 backwards compatibility list was actually updated. It now includes Shenmue 2, Jet Set Radio Future. Oh, no, I'm kidding. Oh, it doesn't include Jet Set Radio Future or Panzer Dragoon Orta. I'm sorry, plebeians. It does have Psychonauts, though. And I know that a lot of people were waiting for Leisure Suit Larry, Magna Cum Laude, and iNinja. If you were, they're there. Also, Open Season on the Xbox.
iNinja? That was a little Namco thing, right?
Yeah, but it's now fully backwards compatible.
Oh, thank God.
I know. So is Winback 2, Project Poseidon.
Ooh.
I know, you can dust that one off. Blue Dragon killed a Twilight Princess in Japan this week because Nintendo's console shipped a week ago. So everyone who's going to buy a Wii bought it already. So everyone who's going to buy Twilight Princess bought it already. So Blue Dragon sold like 80,000 copies in Japan. It was number 4 on the Media Create charts. Mark, you've played a lot of Blue Dragon.
It deserves it. I'm really enjoying it. We're doing the 1UP show next week, and I'm about 10 hours into it. Really loving it. It surprised a lot of people.
You play a little bit differently though than
so it's got your
RPG player.
It's got your serious level grinding, and like Dragon Quest VIII, it reminds me of that same level of level grinding. You kind of want to do it because you have these jobs and skills that you build up, so you want to do it, but on my new TV, it has that option where you can have 2 screens on it at once, and I found the perfect way to play is level grind and have football on the.
See, this is hilarious because you've given
TV.
Luke such a hard time about grinding through World of Warcraft and how.
It's just mindlessly pressing a button.
No. That's not what I said about World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft, you sit there for 3 hours before you do anything. Like, you don't even move.
You're playing a game while watching football.
Yeah, but so what? I'm
Yeah, but so what defense? That doesn't work on one of yours.
No, I'm actually playing. I'm doing something. I'm gaining levels and stuff like that. Yeah,
Touchdown.
That's partially true. A lot of it is just hitting the same button. No. But I'm moving. I'm doing stuff. I'm gaining levels. World of Warcraft, I don't have a problem with the grind. I have a problem with waiting for 3 hours for people to show up like a waiting room to then go and get killed. To go wait for 3 hours for people to show up to get killed.
It's not such
a chat room.
He's a Rams fan.
Really? Man.
Oh, man. I have to bring that up.
I like Marshall Falk. Big Marshall Falk fan. Gears of War, which you can't play online with your friends still. Has sold over 2 million copies worldwide to people who don't like playing ranked games with their friends. There's a rumor circulating now, some viral marketing campaign sort of popped up that seems to point to a Christmas Eve patch. So I'm hoping that on Christmas Eve, after I get back from doing that thing with the candles that those crazy fucking Christians do, where you everyone lights a candle and you talk about it when I'm with my mom, and she and I go every year. And after I get back from that, I'm hoping to download a patch that lets me play Gears of War online with my friends.
I hope that's part of it. Yeah.
Don't hold your breath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's just going to be like 2 new levels and a lot
It's
of
going to be a
bug
Santa
fixes.
hat for Marcus Phoenix.
Oh my god. Awesome.
That might be it.
A new Santa playable character would be awesome.
Or a Santa locust. Like a locust with a big long beard.
Jesus.
Have you guys seen any of the glitch videos? There's a lot more than I
The
thought.
crazy jumping thing.
Crazy jumping.
How do you do that?
I something about like jumping, shooting, and changing your weapon at the same time.
There's something
I'm
to
not
do with the chainsaw as well, because in that one video, the smoke's coming out of the gun all the time, which is when you rev the chainsaw when it's not doing anything. So I assume there's something to do with that.
But
someone on the boards post how to do what it looks like is you're jumping over something and then you scooch forward really fast.
And the guy in the video can do it fairly consistently. It's not like something that he does it and then does it back the other way and stuff like that.
Well, to not just bag on Gears endlessly, I mean, in shooters that are played tons, like these things always emerge.
It's like a novelty. I don't think it's a problem.
There's all kinds of little tricks and stuff that you can do in Halo to just give yourself like a split-second advantage when you're playing with other people.
Yeah, what about the whole sword flying thing? That was a problem.
Yeah, that was absolutely a problem. To talk about Halo real quick, it sounds like there's going to be a new video next week on the marketplace of it might have something to do with the Brutes and the Brute fiction. There was a blogger at Microsoft in Belgium said that on December 20th, a new Halo 3 video will be available on the marketplace. It's a 7-minute long video. It highlights the emergence of the Brutes as playable characters in the game. They're not going to be playable characters at all.
Right.
But when you think about the way that the Halo 3 PR plan's been this year, a lot of the information that came out of the EGM, there was stuff about expanding the Brute fiction. A way to finish the year off would totally be like, here's the Brutes, here's what they were in Halo 2, here's a little taste of what they might be in Halo 3. And there's rumors that there will be gameplay footage, 2.5 minutes of it, but don't hold your breath for that either.
I hope they keep this drip going. I'm surprised that this is coming out this soon, this early.
Yeah, well...
Ask Luke. He was told the other night, it's total fake.
Oh, no, I wasn't. They said in the November 15th update on Bungie on the anniversary day that they had another video doc that they were going to get ready to go and shine light on some of the characters from Halo 3, and they said they wanted to put that out shortly after the CG.
But I just wonder if this is part of, on some board somewhere, there's just like an escalating plan where this is already the start of the drip. Started with the EGM story.
This is actually how they handled the 360 hardware launch, where there was
Rolling Thunder.
The Rolling Thunder thing, where it started very slowly. But the thing about Halo is that it's not all that slow. I mean, it's every couple of weeks, which makes me wonder if the date is really what we're assuming.
Believe. Two last little sort of funny things this week. Kristen Bell, who's the actress on Veronica Mars, and Jade Raymond will be scheduling a pay-per-view tickle fight to settle the score that Kristen Bell probably drummed up when she basically spilled the beans on the plot for Assassin's Creed. It's pretty cool. In an interview with the IGN TV, Kristen Bell said, "It's actually interesting to me talking about the Assassin's Creed plot. It's sort of based on the research that's sort of happening right now." Oh, actresses are so cute. About the fact that your genes might be able to hold memory. And you could argue semantics and say it's instinct, but how does a baby bird know how to eat a worm as opposed to a cockroach if its parents don't show it? Oh, they're so smart. Oh, Kristen Bell's such a sweetheart. And it's about the science company trying to Matrix style go into people's brains and find out an ancestor who used to be an assassin and sort of locate who that person is. It's very, very cool, and I've seen all the graphics for it.
Oops.
So, I'm sorry, Jade.
Now, who's voice acting in Halo 3? Just to go back to, why don't we get set up some interviews with some not so bright actors / actresses?
Oh yeah, I don't know. They always have they have a secret team of voice actors. Like,
how does it never leaks out? Like
David
Metal
Cross
Gear.
is doing it.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sure.
Now, with Assassin's Creed, wasn't there something that alluded to this at E3 when they first announced it?
Yeah, in the trailer, at the end of the trailer, there's this weird,
Being
it
on,
looks like you're looking up from a hospital table or something.
Which fueled some speculation along these lines that it was either a time travel thing or it was a flashback thing. So, I mean, well, good. Thank you.
It is. Thanks for the spoilers. I'm a Detroit native. Not native, but I had to suffer through living there for 5 years. I don't particularly care for baseball, and I actually hate the Tigers. But this Detroit Tigers pitcher, Joel Zumya, he threw his arm out playing Guitar Hero when he should have been pitching in the American League Championship Series.
Oops.
Thanks.
How do you throw your arm out playing Guitar
That's
Hero?
what I was wondering.
It's his wrist. He overworked it.
Oh.
I mean, maybe he's
it was from Guitar Hero.
Yeah, maybe he's a
doing Pete
compulsive
Townsend.
masturbator. Let's be realistic. Maybe it was a slow season.
Are you calling him a wanker? I guess you are.
He's a total wanker. All right, bring it. That's it, Garnet.
All right, now that you jumped on that grenade for us to run out the clock, I think everyone will have lots of opinions. Hopefully you like the second segment. I'm really interested to hear some of the readers' views on what they thought about 2006. Give us some feedback on that. Look for that at boards.oneup.com. We'll be back next week with a look at 2007, and then we will have a show the week between Christmas and New Year's. We're putting it together. It's a little best of montage. Some fantastic things that we've said, and, well, you'll get to hold us accountable for them. So until next week, this is us, and we're out.